Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Bianca, and today I want to talk about the books I've read so far in 2025. So I have my books here, I have my reading journal here, and I think we're going month by month. So let's start.
1, 2, 3, funk it!
In January, I'll be very quick because I didn't read anything. Then in February, I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, and I don't own that book anymore. Or my mom borrowed it. I hope she still has it. I'm not sure if she unhauled it actually. Anyway, I really liked the book. It was very interesting and insightful, and I also think it was written very well. I think you can tell that Jeanette likes writing. Even at some point in the book she talks about writing instead of acting, and I think she likes it a lot more, and you can tell. Because if you like to do something, you're getting better at it automatically. So I guess you can feel that, or I felt that, let's say it that way. So I really liked that book. Also, I didn't know, or I know of Jeanette McCurdy, but I never watched iCarly or anything. And the book still was very interesting and insightful. So if you're also thinking about starting it and reading it, and you're not sure because you never watched one of her TV shows, I would still recommend it. There's a lot of quotes in that book that I like, but there are also heavy themes. I really liked it. I would recommend it if you're interested in memoirs, or also if you like Jeanette McCurdy, even though it's still interesting if you don't really know her. And I gave that book 5 stars. I started it on the 5th of December 2024, and I finished it on the 11th of February in 2025. Then we're into March, because in February I only read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. And then in March I read Love Letters to a Serial Killer by Tasha Coriel, something like that. It was a thriller, and as the title says, Love Letters to a Serial Killer, our main character is kind of getting a little bit obsessed with a killer, with a serial killer, or an alleged serial killer. First she's mad and writes some letters, but then it's getting more serious, and things go from there. Again, I don't want to say too much about it. I don't want to spoil it. Even though for this one maybe I will make a spoiler section. It was okay. It wasn't the best thing. I gave it 3 stars. I also borrowed it to my mom, and my mom really liked it. She said it was one of the books she felt like she could have written. Not that she could have written it, but if she had written a book, it would have ended the same way, or she guessed everything there was to guess. So my mom, I think, liked it more than me. For me, it was just okay. It wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, but it also wasn't great. And now I will make a short spoiler section, so skip ahead if you don't want to get spoiled for this book. I didn't understand this book completely. Our main character, Hannah, first she's mad at the serial killer and writes him letters because of that, which I already don't get the motivation really. But then she gets letters back, they're very nice, so she kind of falls for him. Also, she kind of likes dark stuff, I guess. She almost wants to be with a serial killer for the thrill and the kick of it. But as soon as you meet his brother, you kind of understand that the brother is the serial killer, not him. I guess that's, at least for me, it was really easy to guess, and for my mom as well, so I don't think it's that much of a secret. And now she's interested in the alleged serial killer and in the brother. And I guess she wants the brother more because he's the real thrill, I guess. Which, okay, I don't know. They're doing the deed, or the brother kidnaps her. They're doing the deed, and then the alleged serial killer, obviously he's not the serial killer, the brother is, but he saves her so she doesn't get killed. But again, then they break up because that whole thing was weird. And then we get an epilogue, I think. I'm not sure if it was a last chapter or an epilogue. But in that, she's pregnant and she doesn't know from who. She doesn't know if she's pregnant from the brother or from the alleged serial killer, who clearly isn't the killer and actually would have been a good partner. So that was very confusing. I don't know why they ended it like that. Also, there weren't many twists and turns that weren't that interesting. Her life wasn't that interesting. So I don't know. I just gave it a 3-star and moved on. I also don't have the book anymore. I unhauled it because I didn't want to keep it. I didn't need to keep it. Then next up, I read The Makeover by Clive Duncan, which I don't know if it really counts as a book. It's more of a booklet or like a playbook, which we read in school because we were going to an English play and our teacher handed it out so we could discuss it and read through it, so everyone in our class with every English skill level could understand and follow. That's mainly why we read it. And I also gave it 3 stars because I don't know if I even really count it as a novel. It's just about a girl, her boyfriend, and the roommate of the boyfriend. And the roommate is falling for a girl, but the girl isn't attracted to him, so the girlfriend tries to make him more attractive. So that's where the makeover comes in, and we go from there. I don't really wanna rate it really. I'm not sure because it's just a playbook, a booklet. It's, I don't know, 80 pages if even. But I've read it, so I'm gonna tell you about it. Then we're into April, where I read The Assistants by Camille Perry, and I really liked that. I found that a while ago in a little library, and I wasn't sure if I want to read it or not. But then my partner randomly picked it for me to read, because sometimes if I don't know what to read, I will just tell him, please go to my bookshelf and give me a book. So that's what happened here, and I'm glad it happened, because I really liked that book. It's really interesting. The premise is that the main character, she's working as an assistant in America, and they don't earn enough money, or like they all go into student debt to go to school, to have a good job and stuff like that, and they don't really earn enough to pay back the debt. One day our main character wants to buy something for her boss, but the company credit card doesn't work, so she's giving her own credit card information, but in the end she didn't need to pay that, so they want to give the money back. But instead of transferring the money back to the credit card of the company, they transfer it to the credit card of the main character. And the amount that is transferred is pretty much the sum of her student debt. So now she's thinking, it's not my fault I got this money. Why wouldn't I use it? I would be debt-free. And this is where the story starts. And it was really interesting to follow. Also, the title already says it's The Assistants, not The Assistant, so there's more assistants coming into the story, and I really liked the dynamics of that. I really liked the story. There also was a little romance, but that was a side plot, but I also liked that as well, and I think it's very interesting. I'm not that much of a literary fiction reader, because sometimes it can be a bit boring for me, but this one was actually quite thrilling and interesting, and I wanted to keep reading to know what is happening. That was a nice book. I gave it 4 stars, and I wrote down in my reading journal, basically eat the rich, if you want to know more about it. Also, I found out there is a movie, which I haven't watched, but the whole time I was reading the book, I thought this could be a movie. This would be great for a movie plot. So I guess I was kinda right, because there is a movie. But moving on. In May I read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this book is kind of fun, I have to say. It's not the best written book, it's not the greatest book out there, It's just a fantasy. So a fantasy with romance. And I thought it was entertaining. I always wanted to keep reading because I wanted to know what was happening and what was going on. I liked the characters enough. And like I said, that's a fun read. You shouldn't take it too seriously. Then I think you can enjoy this one. And I don't really think I need to tell you what it is about because I guess everyone heard of this book. But if you haven't, I'm gonna tell you. It's about our main character, Violet, and she was trained to be a writer, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain fantasy books because they always have like their own word building and their own words that were invented for the book. But I'm just gonna say she was trained to be a writer because I don't know how to say that better. But now suddenly she has to be a writer, which means she has to write dragons and fight and go to a war school. And her life got a lot more complicated. Let's just say that. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was better than average. Like, it's not a bad book. Or it kind of is a little silly bad book. But it was so entertaining, I didn't mind. So I gave it 4 stars, and I was so entertained by it that I had to read the second one immediately. But I didn't in May, I did in June. In May I only read Fourth Wing, but then in June I continued right away with Iron Flame. I finished this one. I had it at home already. I ordered this and the third one, and when it arrived, I immediately picked it up. I think there's 1 day maybe, or 2 days. The delivery was pretty quick, and in the meantime, I even read an ebook, so I could continue. And then I had physical copy and continued there immediately. And I can really tell you a lot without spoiling a lot. So I guess I'm not gonna do that because if you're interested in Fourth Wing, you can read it. And if you're not interested, you're not interested. Or if you're interested enough but you don't want to read it, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there with spoilers. But it's too much for me to explain right now. Also, because I've read all of them back to back, I don't really remember in which book happens what thing. Like, it's getting all mixed up in my brain. Iron Flame also was a 4-star for me. I read that one in June, and I also started Onyx Storm as well. And I got to page 305, which isn't even the middle yet, maybe 1/3. And this one I didn't finish, but I also started in June, and I thought I would mention it because it's part of the series. I've got a little bit into it, but I didn't finish it. This one, I'm not sure if I will still finish, if I also will look up a spoiler video to figure out what is going on, or if I will give it some time and try again, because I'm still interested in the story, but in this book, somehow there's nothing happening. There's stuff happening, but it's boring. The plot isn't moving forwards that much. Maybe it's too early in the book to judge it, I'm not sure. But I was losing motivation to continue. And I also have to say about the whole series, the books are very long, very thick, and take some time to read, and most of them could have been shorter. Another thing about that one is it's the 3rd book, and I think there's 4 or 5 books. So maybe this book also has middle book syndrome, where it's just a page filler, just a book, so that there is a book that exists, if that makes sense. So maybe that could also be a problem why I'm not that interested anymore. But let's see how it continues. I don't know what I will do yet, but I thought I would mention it because I also read some of it, and so that you know everything I was reading. Then I took a little bit of a break because, that was a lot of reading. Maybe that was another thing. Maybe I was a little burned out. Could also be a factor. But after a little break, I read That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This book is a debut novel, which I find very interesting because I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars, and this one I also borrowed to my mom, and she also really enjoyed it. This book, we follow a girl which is out on the street, is dirty, has blood marks and stuff, and she doesn't remember anything. She has amnesia, she doesn't know where she is, she doesn't know where she's supposed to be. So she finds a police station, and the detective is trying to figure out stuff. But then there comes a man and says he's the father of her. And the detective is going home with them, checking the security card and the pictures and everything. And it seems to be right. It seems to be his daughter. So the detective leaves her with him. That's one storyline we follow. Another storyline we follow is from the point of view of Drew. And Drew's girlfriend went missing not too long ago, and he's searching for her because he wants to know what happened, where she has gone, if she was kidnapped and stuff like that. Most of the town is blaming him, thinking he did something, but he knows he didn't, so he's one of the only ones that still searches for her, and nobody's really listening to him, so he wants to figure out the puzzle, find out what really happened. Also liked him a lot. Also about the girl, there's a reason I don't say her name, because the name would be a spoiler. And I thought I was on the right track on guessing what would happen in the end, but I was wrong, which took me by surprise and also made me cry a little. So there's that. As I said, I gave it 4 stars. My mom liked it as well, and I would recommend it. That was the last one I read in June. Then in July, that's the last book I'm gonna talk about, was Hotel Ambrosia by Katie Canto. This one is a German book. I don't think there's a translation, but maybe you can tell or you get the same vibe as me. This book is inspired by Hotel Cecil in America, but it's inspired by the book, but it isn't a real story, like it's not true crime. It's a fictional story centered around the hotel. We follow a main character who is in a wheeling chair and can't leave her apartment. She has an apartment opposite to the hotel, so she can look into the windows and sees everything that is going on in this hotel. And one day she sees someone getting kidnapped, and she has to watch everything go down. Like, she can see everything, but she can't go over there to help them. She can't do anything, she just can call the police and tell them about it. Because another thing, she's in a wheelchair, and the building she's in doesn't have an elevator, so she can't leave her apartment. That's also an element of the story. And now she wants to figure out what is going on, what happened, did that really happen, was it in her imagination, stuff like that. And another thing is, she's a true crime fan. She did some research on the hotel and figured out some crimes that went down. These are parts true crime, like real stuff that happened, but I don't think everything is true. But that's where the inspiration came from. And she has a favorite podcast, and she wrote an email to the host, kind of recommending or like asking to make a podcast episode about this hotel. And the host writes back and is thinking that it's interesting, and if she could stay in the hotel and tell her what is going on, and she accepts that offer, knowing very well that she can't leave her apartment. So how will she do that? How will she look into the hotel? How will she find out more? That's another thing we have to figure out. So that's where the story kicks off, and I have to say there's a lot going on. From the beginning I was very intrigued and wanted to know what was happening next. So if you can get your hands on this, I don't know, maybe if it is translated at some point or if you can read German, I would really recommend this book. I gave it 4 stars and I'm still thinking about it sometimes. Because I don't know if I can really say there's some questions unanswered, but this book makes you think a lot. And you can have a lot of different theories, so that was very interesting as well. So that's the last book. That's all I read in July, and soon there will be a reading vlog for August. Look out for that. But that's all I've read so far in 2025. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you got some new recommendations. Also feel free to leave me some recommendations in the comments, or also tell me what you've read so far in 2025, or also what you've read in August. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next. I hope the light is better now because I brought out my Ring camera. So I hope now it's not as annoying anymore that the sun is behind me. I hope that helped.